Welcome to the Mazda Laguna Seca Raceway. We're going to be taking some laps of the track in my car, which started life as a Porsche 911S 1976 model, but has had some serious upgrades in terms of engine, suspension, steering, wheels, and so on to make it handle better. It's also been lightened a little bit. We're now entering the racetrack using the very long, very narrow, and rather twisty pit exit lane. This is a rather unique pit exit lane among racetracks in that it completely bypasses turns 1 and 2 on the racetrack and enters between the turns which are numbered 2 and 3. So the first turn that we'll be taking as numbered on the track is turn number 3. Turn number 3 is part of the infield section, which was added to the Laguna Seca Raceway in the 1970s. This infield section has made the course a lot twistier than it used to be. It was more of an oval in the past, but it has not eliminated the true signature turn of Laguna Seca Raceway, which is turn 8, actually turns 8 and 8A, which are more popularly known as the corkscrew. Here we are exiting turn 5, and we're going to be going steeply uphill all the way to the corkscrew between turns 6, turn 7, and then finally into turn 8, which is the numerical designation for the corkscrew turn. Now this is a very slow lap. This is a warm-up lap. We've just entered the track, so the tires are cold, engines are cold, and more importantly, the drivers are cold. So this is a lap where we'll probably hit no more than about 80 miles per hour to warm up cars and drivers. Here we are going through the corkscrew, very slow speed, so you get a good chance to see how twisty it is and steeply downhill from the corkscrew all the way downhill to turn 9, which is the turn coming up here, the left-hander, and then turn 10, which is the right-hander coming up at the bottom of the hill, with a short flat straightaway to turn 11. Turn 11 is the last turn on the course before we start the lap over again, and turn 11 is also the slowest lap on the course. So now, having done a warm-up lap, we're going to pick up the speed a little bit. I still wouldn't call this a hot lap, but it's going to be considerably faster. Here we are on the front straightaway, going up through the gears. We'll end up in 4th gear, and at the end of the front straight, we'll be doing about 100 miles per hour, which is about 50 to 80 miles per hour slower than the professional race cars like the one you just saw pass me. At the end of the straight, it's down to 3rd gear and into turn 2, which is a 180-degree sweeping turn. The back end of the 911 wants to step out, so you can see a lot of steering correction there to try to keep it on track. Here we are having exited turn 2, going through turn 3. 3 is an interesting turn in that it requires a technique called trail braking, where we actually brake through the turning zone. Usually we want to brake in a straight line and then begin to turn with the throttle on. In the case of that turn, we'd like to do a little bit of braking as we start the turn in. Between turns 4 and 5 is a pretty good long flat straightaway. We can get up to nearly 100 miles per hour at this point again. In 4th gear, then a quick heel and toe downshift back to 3rd to turn up the hill through turn 5. From turn 5, it's steeply uphill all the way to the corkscrew. We don't want to lose any momentum through this section of the course for a low horsepower car such as mine, because you'll pay for it all the way to the top of the hill and can actually lose a couple of seconds per lap if you lose time in this section. Now here we are at a bit better speed than before approaching the corkscrew. There's actually 2 braking zones that I use. I brake a little bit before the number 3 marker and then a little more heavily at the number 1 marker, and you can see a lot of steering input to get through the corkscrew. Then steeply downhill, accelerating hard, and then letting off the throttle, maybe a little bit of a brake tap to get down to turn 9. Turn 9 actually has a compromised exit. We don't exit all the way out to the edge of the track because we want to be able to set up very straight and very clean for 10, carry a lot of speed through 10, down into the braking zone and downshift zone for turn 11, all the way down to 2nd gear through turn 11, and then again onto the front straightaway and back up to 4th gear as we start another lap. The start-finish line is right about at the point where we cross under the bridge. This is turn 1. Turn 1 isn't much of a turn. There's hardly anything to it, but it's very daunting because it's steeply downhill after the uphill of the front straightaway, and you're going over 100 miles per hour. You can see here somebody's trying to cut inside me on turn 2. I'm not going to let him do that. That's not a proper thing for him to do on a track day. This isn't racing. And so now I've pointed him by, and it pretty much takes him forever to decide to go around me. It's just not very good driving for the kinds of things that we do on a track day, not on a racing, not actually trying to race on this circuit, but trying to practice and trying to learn how to drive a little bit faster. So here we are again approaching turn 5. Downshift to 3rd and try to carry as much speed as we can through 5. Now I've missed the apex there, and I'm going to miss the trackout point. That white berm to the right is where I should have been, and I didn't get all the way out there. So I scrubbed off a lot of speed that I shouldn't have through there, and you can notice that the other cars are pulling away from me now up this steep uphill portion because I just don't have the horsepower to make up for the time that I lost in turn 5. That's turn 7. Again, not much of a turn, kind of like 1, but it sets you up nicely to go through the corkscrew. And here we are through the corkscrew now at speed, and then heading again steeply downhill under the bridge, making the the left-hand turn 9, compromise that exit. I missed that apex a little bit too, to set up for 10. And then on into 11 to complete another lap and start on the front straightaway. Now I was a little perturbed that I missed a couple of apexes on that run, and so I vowed to myself that I was going to have a good run. And as it turns out, what you're going to see here is probably the best lap I've ever done at Laguna Seca. Enjoy. Enjoyed it even half as much as I enjoyed making it for you.